Welcome to the Rise Up with Orion podcast. Thank you so much for joining us for our monthly podcast episode. This is a new one for us with a new expert that I want to take a few minutes to introduce you to. This is Chance Potts. He's the founder of One More Benefit and the Fit Life Benefits team. From rising athletes to their parents, entrepreneurs, and average people who simply want to get to the next level, Chance has worked with hundreds of emerging leaders over the last 3 decades. I'm sure it's been more now. One constant theme throughout it all, the people with the most success and joy in life tap into the power of mental fitness. We're going to be talking about mental toughness today. So, as a Christian husband, father, entrepreneur, and coach, he has experienced his share of setbacks and adversity. Chance is here to help you bridge the gap between wanting a mental edge and having the tools to put mental fitness into practice and thrive in every area of our life. We're just going to touch the surface today, Chance. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. I need to take you with me everywhere I go so you can intro.
Right?
Awesome.
And like I said, and the thunder of lightning didn't mess it up too much. So hopefully that was a decent introduction. Anything that you want to add before I have you dive into your kind of personal story on how this all started?
I don't think so. I think you did great. I'm just excited to be here with you and have common interests like you all do. And yeah, we can get rock and roll.
Awesome. Awesome. So let's start there. Obviously, Chance, you have dived in with 2 feet to start multiple companies when it comes to mental fitness training. So tell me how that all started and what frameworks you use in the trainings that you offer.
Yeah, so a couple of big parts of that. One goes way, way back, which I kind of have to give credit to. And that was I was primarily raised by a single mom, 3 kids, my older sister who passed away a number of years ago to breast cancer. And she worked with me in the benefits firm for 11 years and super thankful for that. My younger brother, Ty, had very severe cerebral palsy. And
Mm,
so he could smile and cry, and that was about it. And I didn't really know what I'm sharing now until I hit my mid 20s, but I realized in my mid 20s how I was watching my mom that entire time. And
mm,
you don't know what you don't know, but the level of perseverance, the perspective of doing the mundane, the common uncommonly well, as a single mom who was left by my dad. I love him and thankful he loved me, but he left and did not accept that responsibility. And for 22 years, my brother lived, and she changed every diaper, fed him every meal, bathed him every other day for 22 years. So I have to
wow.
give credit really there to mental toughness and where it really started. And then my dad and I did have a great relationship throughout life. He passed away a couple of years ago. But there was a lot of dysfunction there. Would love to duplicate 20% of my dad that was phenomenal, and I don't want to duplicate 80% of it that was honestly very dysfunctional in
Sure.
his health, his relationships, obviously his responsibility. In business, he had 60 years in business. He didn't have 60 years of experience. He had 1 year repeated 60 times. And as
Wow.
he got into, later age, which, fitness ties into mental fitness. My dad had 7 amputations over his last 20 years due to non-compliant diabetes and passed away at the age of 86. And I'm super thankful I was able to help him, serve him, love him, help take care and provide for him during that time. But man, I spent a lot of time also being angry about a lot of that and things I've had to work through. So the most core reason of why I'm involved in mental fitness is because I've needed it my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
I still need it. My
Sure.
my mom set the basic stage of like what I didn't even realize how powerful it was of the common. And then fast forward into more of what we think of as mental fitness, it was sports. I played college football and I swam in college, and kind of an odd combo. But in the swimming experience, I met 2 sports psychologists in college many, many years ago, over 30 years ago. And that I was super intrigued by mindset and how I could seek a direction versus drifting into the duplication of being more like my dad.
Right.
And we all have function and dysfunction in our families, and we all tend to duplicate both of those. So I saw people, and then I met my wife, and we've been together now 30, married 31 years, together 33. And her grandfather became that next pillar for me that showed what a fit life looked like not just
Oh,
wealth and not just any one thing. It was truly somebody who lived out what they said was most important to them on a day-to-day basis. Like if you asked him what was most important, he'd give you the answers. And then if you looked at his calendar and his finances, it would match. Like how he spent
oh.
his time and how he spent
Mm-hmm.
his money aligned with that. And that gave me something to aim for that was just worth aiming for. It's like, I want to create a wealthy life. I don't want to just have six-pack abs and no relationships. I don't want to have $6 million in the bank and no health.
Yep.
So it was this ongoing journey. And about 5 years ago, myself and another really good friend of mine and coach, we were doing mental performance coaching for elite football players. And it just hit me during that time. And 5 years ago, obviously, we were coming out of or kind of in the middle of and coming out of a very crazy time in our country. And mindset all of a sudden just hit the top, right?
Absolutely.
Big challenge. And so here we are coaching these elite football players and working with them in mental performance. And I got to thinking, I was like, man, why don't we take this to the parents? And then I thought about, why don't I take this to a group of HR people? And
Mhm.
then I had more people express interest. And so we were doing all these 6 week series on Zoom because Zoom became popular, obviously. And what we're doing now. And
Hmm.
I then got to thinking kind of two perspectives on why mental fitness training is a business now. And one is, why is it that athletes, celebrities, and top executives are paying so much money for this stuff they say they need to go from good to great or great to elite?
Hmm.
But yet everybody's not getting it. It's like, why is it just for primarily the athlete? And then I thought, been in employee benefits for 30 years, and I love helping my clients. I don't love health insurance or benefits or all the things we get to dive in. But I did fall in love with serving them and helping them. And I want to help them grow a business. I don't want to just help them treat symptoms. And sometimes we treat benefits, I think, like we treat our health. It's like we get high blood pressure. So what do? We go treat the symptom with a high blood pressure medicine instead of doing the things that can get rid of the high blood pressure.
Right.
A
Yes.
lot of times in benefits, business owners will do that same thing. They'll have a problem in their business, they'll have a pain, and they think they're going to throw a benefit at it and it's going to fix that. It's going to be the prescription for the problem. And it really doesn't. The foundational issues, it's like we got to build the host. And I thought, well, what's the
Hmm.
host? What's the most center point of a business or of a person? And it's our mindset. And so the second piece of it, outside of like training athletes and others not getting it, was how can we grow a business to its fullest potential if we're not growing the people within it?
Absolutely.
I don't think we can. I mean, we can, and here's the thing, we'll grow it just enough to think we can. But we hit these ceilings or these walls that we don't realize really what's holding us back because we're
Hmm.
constantly treating symptoms and we're not working on the host and the foundation. So there are some frameworks that I use, but the most basic one that is in everything we do is if we can think better, we can live better, and we can give better. And give could be meaning literally give things, or it could be serve. And it
Hmm.
starts with our thoughts from the inside out. And I have a couple of other frameworks that we do on the controllables and things we can control, like the airfare to your next level. Airfare is an acronym and a framework that we use. And then another one called the Real Fit Life. And I'll just kind of maybe end this answer, kind of a long answer, but end this with this. And that is, as we evolve into this world of AI and this exponential growth of technology, I believe with everything in me, we are already doing this. And over the next 5 years, we're going to do it even more. And that is unconsciously and consciously, we are going to be seeking that which is real.
Hmm.
What is real? We're going to want real human connections. If we want to have a business that is even alive in 5 years, we better emphasize genuine, meaningful human connection and leverage technology. And it's an and to varying degrees
Sure.
because I don't know everybody's business industries, but man, the emphasis on real, genuine, meaningful human connection is going to be super important as we, have personal relationships, business relationships. It all starts with our mind. It all starts with our thoughts.
Absolutely. And opening yourself up to be vulnerable enough for those relationships to come in and to strive
Yep.
for better. And I think that's really hard for, not only myself, but probably a lot of our listeners is, being vulnerable enough to reach higher. And not just, I love what you said at the very beginning, just 62 of the exact same year. Again, not 62 years old or more experienced, but I
Yeah.
think that's going to resonate with me. Just that one statement is to strive for better. And again, we are in control of that. It's not the world around us.
Yeah, and there's no status quo. We fall into an accidental trap, unintentional trap, whatever. But we get to these points, especially after college or after whatever growth period we think we need to get into a career. or do
Mm-hmm.
whatever we're going to do, become the best parent, become the best whatever we think we're going to do. But about our mid 20s to mid 30s, we stop growing.
Mm.
Finish our degree, we finish our learning. And one of the greatest obstacles to success is a little bit. It's like
Yeah.
we think of the obstacles to success being the hard things we're going to face, and they are. But
Sure.
really, it's in the mundane, it's in the minute to minute, it's when no one's watching. The mundane, I think, is one of the biggest challenges, the things we don't really know that is going on all the time with us. And then it's in the success. And on the growth side, it's like one of the things that keeps us from growing is growth. We've
Yeah.
grown just enough to get to where we are, and we inherently think whatever I've done to grow me to this point is the same thing. Well, I just need to go do more of this to grow to that next level. And it's like, no, it's a next level of discomfort. It's a next level of thinking. It's a next level of associations. It's a next level of pretty much anything. And I love what John
Mm-hmm.
Maxwell says is like everything, anything worthwhile is uphill. And he points his arm up like,
Yeah.
and he says everything like 7 times, like irritably 7 times.
Uh,
And it's like, okay, so where do we want to climb from?
yeah.
Do we want to climb from the ditch, or do we want to get stronger and climb from a stronger position? Because if everything worthwhile is uphill, well, then we're either going to accept not fighting for that which is worthwhile and just allow ourselves to live in a ditch our whole life. And some
Mm-hmm.
people choose to do that.
Sure.
Or we're going to recognize that the choice of pain, the choice of discomfort is I can choose comfortable today and be very uncomfortable in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Good example is my dad. He lived
Sure.
very comfortably, non-compliant diabetes, ate and drank everything he wanted to continually.
Mm-hmm.
He had 7 amputations over 20 years. Or I can be a little bit uncomfortable today and maybe be more comfortable in the future.
Right.
But really what I find over time is as I get more uncomfortable, I'm willing to embrace that and get stronger. And when I get stronger, I realize, oh, okay, I can do more. And when I get around other people that think growth minded, not fixed minded, we can grow.
You will love this. My example to add to it exactly what you're doing is you probably won't be able to see it if you're on camera, but I just enrolled in a biochemistry class
Wow.
after, being in the working world for almost 20 years, going back to school as an old lady now at this point, again, thinking there's no way in heck I'm going to be able to grasp this, but this is the prime example. So uncomfortable, not only just here. I remember a lot of this stuff, but again, there's a long-term goal, and unfortunately, it's uncomfortable right now. But again, striving for more because why not?
Yeah, I love
Always
that.
trying something else. So good old biochemistry,
Yeah,
my new challenge.
that's awesome.
So Chance, what exactly is mental, fitness, and how is it different from mental health and motivation?
Yeah, great question. In its simplest form, it is intention and ability to manage our thoughts and emotions day to day, and especially through adversity. So adversity knocks us off commonly. Sometimes it's little things like bad traffic on the way to work, could be big things, could be desired adversity, could be undesired. We go in for desired adversity. We're trying to have a great workout. We're desiring that adversity. There's all kinds of people in our way. We can't get our equipment, it gets in our head. We have a bad workout, whatever the case may be that gets in our head. There's that desired adversity that we put in front of us to grow a career, but we think others are holding us back. We blame, complain, and defensive, whatever. And then there's those undesired adversities that come, which could be traffic or could be major things that come and get in the way. And it's our ability, it's our intention and our ability to be mentally fit. Is to be physically fit, we have to be intentional. You can't just wake up and think, I'm going to go be physically fit today. You have to actually do work. You've got to do something to become physically fit. Well, the same is true with our mind. We just don't think
Hmm.
that way. We go through school, we know we have to learn the stuff we learn, and then we get out and we think, okay, now I'm in my career. And we might learn a little bit professionally, but most don't tend to learn personally and continue to do that. Definitely nobody in my family did.
Hmm.
I'm not judging them or knocking them. I've had to work on on this my entire life. So, but it's just simply that intention of growing our mindset, growing our mental health, our mental fitness, and our ability to manage it or steward it in the day to
Hmm.
day. It's
Right.
it's in all of the stuff that happens. Are we going to let our emotions control us and our thoughts control us? Or are we going to start to learn to train ourselves to have control over them in how we respond? one of the things we teach came from some other coaches, but E plus R equals O. Event plus response equals outcome.
Mm-hmm.
Don't control the events in our life. We don't control the outcomes. We do influence them, but we don't control them. But how do we influence them? With our response. The only thing we control is our response. And that's a part of the airfare framework that we do in the controllables. But we 100% control our response. And our response is an event for others. And
Makes a
so,
big impact.
yeah. So, one of the very first step of the R factor is pause. I mean, it's crazy to think you would be paid to go teach people to pause.
And breathe. Just breathe.
But we do. We literally in our trainings, we train and we teach people. It's like pause, yeah, you just paid me for that. Thank you. But
Yes,
but it's hard. It's not
it
easy.
is.
It's not our norm. When our buttons get pushed, strings get pulled, whatever, we don't tend to pause. It's harder to pause with my kids, raising four boys and teenagers, and they're not one's a teenager now, but it's like I end up acting like I'm 17 because they think they're 57, and
Yeah, yeah.
so we're all challenged by it, but in its simplest form, it's our ability to manage or steward. I like the word stewardship, but it's our ability to manage our thoughts and our emotions through the day to day, and especially through adversity. And my initial adversity was not mine. I already shared it. It was my mom's. I
Mm-hmm.
was watching
Sure.
what she did. Then it gave me these antennas that were just like up and huge for all the inspirational, encouraging stories of other people that I would encounter throughout life. I could not see them. I just
Mm-mm.
always saw all these things and they always inspired me. Now, I didn't know what adversity was going to come my way. And my wife and I experienced some significant adversity, but we didn't know what that was going to be. I didn't realize the power and the impact of all the inputs I'd been putting in for years when
Right.
the day of adversity happened. I didn't have a clue how that was going to. I mean, I probably read it, but I didn't feel it or own it like when it happened.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And adversity sometimes we think is what creates or builds our character or our mental toughness, and it's not. Adversity reveals it. You
Mm-hmm.
know, we're going to rise to the level of our training, and most of us, including myself, years ago, wasn't training my mindset. I was being fed because I was definitely seeking people beyond me in every area of life. I measure 5 areas of life and I measure health in these 5 areas. So kind of think of a scale of 0 to 10, and it's sick, well, fit. And where that comes from is the CrossFit world because I've coached that for a long time. But it's spiritual, mental, and physical. That's like putting the oxygen mask on ourselves first, right? We got
Mm-hmm.
to do that first before we try to put the mask on our kids or our spouse or our coworkers. And then the next two are relationship and finances. And relationships probably I think it's the most important because relationship spiritually or relationship with your spouse or kids or whatever. But if I'm not working on these three and becoming more spiritually fit, mentally fit, physically fit, I'm not going to be as good in my
Mm-hmm.
relationships and my finances. And it's not a matter of where we are on the scale. And this was a coach that took me through this back in 2011. He said the average American, and this is 2011, way pre-COVID, right? So 2011, he said the average American on the abundant scarcity mindset scale, if scarcity is a 0 and abundance a 10, the average American was standing at about a 4.5. And here we are in the most abundant country on the planet in 2011, and the average American, he says, is right at about a 4.5 on this abundant mindset versus scarcity mindset. And he said, that's not the most significant thing. The most significant thing is that they're facing this direction. They're facing the scarcity mindset. They're putting that stuff in. That was me. This is back Obamacare coming out in my benefits industry, and I'm reading and listening to negativity every day. I have one of my business partners in my door of my corner office every morning at 7:45 in the morning telling me the sky's falling in the industry. And it's like that's how I'm starting every day. And I have this coach and he's telling me where too many of us are facing this way. And I'm thinking I'm mentally fit. I'm thinking I'm actually doing okay. And I'm like, but holy cow, it's what's more important is which way am I facing?
Mm-hmm.
What am I putting in? Am I hanging around people like you that are going to be lifting people up, edifying, encouraging, learning? It's like when you all of a sudden share that you're doing biochemistry, it's like, man, that's a challenge. I would think that's harder than learning mental fitness personally. Uh,
I'm
but
learning both at the same time.
well, and here's a cool thing that you're duplicating. Do you have kids?
Yeah, I've got two of them.
Yeah, awesome. So we are watching our kids, right?
Mhm.
So many parents in their 50s and 60s are watching their kids and they're frustrated because they're in their 30s and 40s and their kids stop growing. And their parents are frustrated because I know them, they're friends of mine. And they're like, why aren't they growing? Why aren't they trying to do better? Why aren't they striving more? And it's like, well, what did you do when you were in your 40s and 50s?
Mhm.
So you're an example
Yep.
still striving to do better, and your kids are likely going to duplicate it whether they realize it or not. And that's
Sure.
a cool thing to duplicate. But more often we fall in that trap. We all do. We just get into those routines of comfort and complacency and stay the same. And we think, okay, I've grown enough, or we don't say that. We don't really literally
Mhm.
say that. We just get into that comfort zone. So
Yeah, it's really easy to set cruise control.
yeah,
It is. And I mean, and humans love routines. Exactly. There's no unexpected with a routine. So I love what you're saying there. So what does it actually look like? So you were talking about, your benefits people that are bringing the problems and the earth is falling. What does it look like on a daily basis to train the mind? Just like you do, in the CrossFit world. How do you do that on a daily basis? Where do you start?
yeah. So one thing I'd have to ask people is, do you have a desire, and is the desire real?
Mm,
Because we got to have a must. Like we got to have a desire before. Can we start? We can start. Will we stay with it? We need to have a desire. Like if it's a shoulda, coulda, woulda, it's going to be hard. And then we need to get at a why, and that why falls back to pleasure or pain. My
mm,
pain. I didn't want to experience the life my dad was experiencing early on, not waiting for the diabetes to affect him, but even in his business, his challenges. That pain caused me to go, man, I got to do something different. And I realized I got to put better things in my mind, the inputs, which on the airfare framework is the second letter. So awareness is the first letter, the second letter I on what we can control. We can't control all of our inputs, but we can control some of our inputs. And so, what are our inputs? Many leaders will say first thing in the day. And I'll be like, okay, but if you're not doing that and you don't want to do it first thing in the day, I'm going to say first 90 minutes of the day, within the beginning of your day. That is one of the first things we can do is to start to create a morning ritual at some point in the beginning of your day. And let's just start with 1% of a day, which is 14 minutes and 24 seconds. We can all do something for 14 minutes and 24 seconds to put better information in our minds. And maybe we do start with something that's seems self-serving towards our profession. Fine. I mean, biochemistry is not necessarily, it could, but it's not necessarily for your personal growth. It could be professional growth. um,
mm.
it could help you learn how our bodies work, right? So you could help even on the personal side more. But the inputs we put in, when you squeeze an orange, what comes out? Orange.
Juice.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Specifically, orange juice comes out. But when life squeezes you, what comes out? I don't know. What are you putting in? I was not putting good stuff in. So when I would talk to people, I'd be talking more like what I was putting in. So the very first thing we can do is our morning ritual and be aware of. It starts with a desire, then second, it goes to awareness. What am I putting in currently? What could I change? And I
Hmm.
did listen to a coach out of Canada back a number of years ago, around that same time, 2011. And he said the top two productivity killers of an entrepreneur is his office or his or her office and email. I was like, all right, I'm out of both. So I literally got out of my office, gave it to my top account executive, and I couldn't completely get out of email. I've tried.
Never.
That one's a hard
Hmm.
one. Did better though. But he said, here's the deal. We all, if we ask 100 people, how many of you think you're disciplined people? Only a few people raise their hands. And he's like, well, let me challenge you with this. What if I said everybody's 100% disciplined in your existing habits? He's like, the problem is not are you disciplined or not disciplined? And sometimes we think of discipline as doing the things that are going to help us grow, right? But you could also use discipline and habits interchangeably. Like your disciplines might be unsuccessful disciplines. They may be leading you down a path that you don't really want to go. You wouldn't say you want to go there, but your disciplines that you do every morning and every day are not aligning to help you become a better version of yourself or the best version of yourself. So the first thing is the morning ritual. It is, what are we putting in our minds first thing? I just lobbed out there like that first 90 minutes. It is more than that. I do believe being intentional about associations is something that we can do to improve our mental fitness, meaning get around somebody who thinks better, who has a better attitude, who brightens a room when they walk in, not when they leave. Get
Hmm.
around those people Just get around one person that has a better attitude, one person that's further in your career, but maybe has more of the life you want to have, not just the income. And when you get around that association, now you're gonna gravitate towards that more. It's like I've not always been like super fit, but I've been healthy my mostly generally fit my entire life. But you have to go to a second cousin in my family to find a person who's done a workout or a sport. Like, come from a very unhealthy family. I love them. I'm super thankful for the
Yep.
relationships we have, but we're in Missouri. It is not a very healthy state, and a lot of obesity, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, all that running through my family. And the associations matter. And so if I'm hanging around fit people, and I hang around people that are way more fit than me, and I'm like, it causes me to think about what I'm going to order, causes me to, when I'm at meals with them,
Mm-hmm.
and it just matters. And so the associations matter. And I think if we want to build a successful life, then what does that look like? What do you define success as? Who can you be around? And so the last thing is to find some congruence in our day and how we can win the day with doing the priorities, the top three things. If you have more than three priorities, you don't have any. And if we could do the priorities, top three things, personally and professionally, you can pick three personally if you want, and three professionally. But what are those three things? And this is if I'm moving from just a simple morning ritual. This is like, hey, I already did
Mm-hmm.
a morning ritual. Okay, cool. Increase your associations by one. Pick an area of your life, increase a challenging association. Somebody that's further than you in marriage, somebody that's further than you in your finances, somebody that's further than you somewhere, health. And then that third step would be, can I get congruent with what I say the priorities are and quit being distracted? Because we're all busy being busy and very few people are productive. And I want to help people get to their next level. Like, I would want to help you get to your next level. It's not about you becoming more like me or me becoming more like you. We can have some of each other in each other and we can learn from each other, but then it's about you taking what you learned from me or vice versa and making it be the best version of me or vice versa with you. It's like there's only one Tara Mead on the planet. There's
I hope so.
there's never been another one in the past ever. And you're the only one now, and there will never be another one, ever.
Mm-hmm.
And the only person that can go become a better version of you is you. Nobody on the planet can compete with that. But all of us have that within us. I think sometimes we get caught up in a professional calling, and I'm not saying you can't get those, I think you can, but it starts with having a personal calling of becoming the better version of yourself, learning how to build your inner coach to tame the inner critic. And as you build that and tame that inner critic over time, you start to get in touch with yourself a little more. You start to improve on reflection and awareness and clarity on what do I really need to work on, and it becomes a must, not a should. And we then do train ourselves to change because change is not a 3-day seminar. Within 72 hours, we're right. I'm not saying they're bad. I've gone to many of them. But if I don't act on something right away coming out of one of those, I can go learn how to fly in a 3-day seminar and literally walk out of the seminar. And that's what we do. And so those would be my three. There's a lot more there. There's so much there to
Sure.
this, but I think the morning ritual and our inputs is probably the best first step for people who aren't doing any of it. For those that are in the middle, it's improving our associations and being challenged by those people who will care about you and challenge you. And then the priorities are, if I really want to go to a next level and I want to go from great to elite, then it's about eliminating or reducing. I think eliminating is a stretch, reducing distractions,
Mm-hmm.
weapon of mass distraction, right? And all the streaming, zombie scrolling that a lot of us are guilty of doing. If we can start to control those things instead of letting them control us, and if we really want to go to where the uber successful go, and I do think it's worth doing that in my personal opinion. I want to build a fit life though. I don't want to, like I said, I want to do just one piece, but then they are good at saying no to the things that are not essential, that are not what they're gifted towards, that are not their top priorities. They're
Mm-hmm.
the best of the best at that, and that's why they go and create success in those certain areas. So those would be a few things. There's so much to it that it can seem overwhelming. And I've had a few friends tell me this because I on my website it's says train your mind to transform your life, and one of my friends said, "Man, transform your life just See,
Too big, too
it's
big.
too
Yeah.
daunting. I can't transform my life. There's too much. His inner critic is kicking his butt.
Hmm.
I'm like, okay, I can relate to that. I'm like, but then we teach this thing called the gap and the gain. And this comes from Dan Sullivan, who's a strategic coach. And it's like we get so focused on this gap between where we are and this transforming our life, right? That gap is so huge for all of us. It's huge for me. It would beat me up every day. I wouldn't want to
Hmm.
wake up and grow, right? But the gain is, can I do a little bit better today than I did yesterday in the top most important area? And probably that area is staring us in the face. If it's
Absolutely.
it's staring us in the face. If it's our finances, that debt's staring us in the face. If it's our relationships, it's staring us in the face. We probably know what we need to work on. We're just not sick and tired of being sick and tired. We are sick and tired of it, but that's not
Not
enough.
enough.
You got to be sick and tired of being sick and tired to then go say, okay, and now I got to get some help. I got to get around other people who think better, think further. And that's what I've needed. And I still need to this day.
Hmm.
I need people that are further than me, that care about me, that challenge me, because I can so easily go backwards.
Yeah. It's where that motivational element comes in, and everyone's motivated by something different. And I think that's huge. My
Yeah.
other comment that I was going to throw in there as well is, with with the social media, with the digital age, there's a lot that's telling us what we should be and what we, should be striving for, what we should look like, what we should be thinking, who we should hang out with. I mean, it's telling us every aspect of wellness that you're talking about, what
Yeah,
we should be doing. But again, I love what you just said, Chance, is to, turn that table around. And it's in us. It's not something that's being fed to us through the joy of technology. So,
for sure.
wanted to reiterate that. I love that.
Yeah.
So Chance, what does it look like when, we're talking about mental fitness and its impact on, leadership or culture or relationships inside organizations? Because most of our listeners probably are in some type of organization, whether it's their employer, their church, their, volunteer group, you name it. What does mental fitness look like in those different aspects?
Yeah, it's phenomenal, but it takes time. It's not an overnight fix. We all want instant gratification in almost everything we do now. And I'd set the stage a little bit on that, in that if we go to the greatest generation, the builder generation, everything was a grind. Everything.
Mm-hmm.
Mental
Yep.
toughness was a way of life. I mean, you had to be
Yeah.
tough or you just weren't going to survive. And so everything took time. Fast forward all the way to to the youngest generation, everything's a click away. Everything's a click away. Now here's the challenge. I'm 57 this month. I'm more likely migrate to like them than they would migrate to more like the builder generation or whatever. I'm a Gen Xer,
Yeah.
so it's like
Mm-hmm.
it's a trap for all of us. All the older generations are falling into more of a trap of being, I want it now, and I want it now. I want everything right now. I want it all,
Sure. Who
right?
doesn't?
So, so when we move from that click away, I think that's just again awareness. We can't change. It's very hard to change what we're not aware of. So I think we first have to be aware that this takes time to build it, and it's training like physical fitness training. It's
Yep.
not a
Doesn't happen
90-day
overnight.
exercise program. It is a life exercise program. So what it does is it builds a stronger foundation. It builds from the core, from the inside out. So it builds the person from the inside out. If we get, so often companies historically, they don't all do it now because I think we are seeing a little shift here.
Mm-hmm.
So often companies would hire for skill set and resume, and they fire for behavior and drama. And it's like, but we never train behavior and drama, and
Mm-hmm.
communication. But I think we do now. I think there's a little bit of that out there more now. But we generically will hire people that we think are equipped to come in and do a job. But then when we get caught up in their ability or inability to control their thoughts and emotions and how that bleeds into teamwork and dynamics, it's like, they're not a fit. It's like, Andy Frisella, who owns First Form and Supplement Superstore, a huge company that's grown from zero to almost $1 billion now. He only hires in alignment with his core values. Only. Like that is his core thing with hiring is you. And I just, one of the things I know about the people that work at First Form, a huge company out of St. Louis, you better be willing and desiring to work hard.
Sure.
You don't want to work hard. The rest of the team, it's like I've been an Alabama Crimson Tide fan. I don't know if you follow college football, but I've been a fan since Bear Bryant days. It's like if you go on Alabama, there's a standard. And if you're not meeting that standard, the other guys on the team don't want you on the team. It's not the employer, it's not the head coach, it's not the athletic.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's the standard that the team members have. And so he's created that with those core values. And so if mental fitness can become a part of, hey, look, we want to help our people become more mentally fit because we know if we can help them personally, they're going to be better professionally. And the reality is, we know this about athletes, and this is where it does tie in with how does mental fitness tie in with organizations and businesses? We absolutely know, and people talk about it all the time because they talk about the athlete who melted down off the field. They had an accident, they did this or did that, and how it impacted them or even got them fired from their professional career. And it's like we know our off the field everything impacts how we perform on the field. We know
Mm-hmm.
that, but we never think of it in our professional life. We're just looking over there at the professional athletes or the celebrities who, the celebrity who reaches multi-millions of dollars and they're a drug addict and they're melting down and we judge them. And it's like, I don't know how I would have done in that if I'd gotten multi-millions of dollars and I'm famous and I'm on stages and I might have been doing the same thing they've done. I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
but we would rather judge and criticize when one finger's pointed at them. I've always thought three are pointing back at me. It's like, why would I even judge that? Why would I be critical? It's like, obviously, there's something in me I need to work on. But we know that with celebrities, who they are off the stage impacts on the stage. With athletes, we know that. But we never think of that with insurance brokers, with teller, with
Mm-hmm.
teacher, but here's the deal. If the teacher at a school is struggling outside the schoolroom in their married life, in their financial life, in their family, whatever the kid, their health, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
There's no doubt that's showing up to some degree on the field of play, which is in the classroom, right?
Right.
So it's a both thing. So when we go and work on our mental fitness, we are working from the inside out of the person. And then the cool thing is, we're working from the inside out of the company. It's like
Mm-hmm.
instead of treating symptoms, we're building the host, we're building a stronger foundation. And I've heard that the two younger generations that are in the workplace that they want work-life balance, that they truly want what they didn't see maybe in their parents or grandparents. It's like, okay, but I heard from a leader, billionaire in Dallas talk at a trip I was on one time, and he said, I would recommend building a stronger foundation. And then when life is in or out of balance, you're able to handle it either way. It's like
Mm-hmm.
we're either growing or we're going backwards. I have this shirt on, Shark Mindset, which is Walter Bond, who wrote the book Swim. I just spent 2 days with him here in Nixa, Missouri. We brought him in to speak to the community and the schools and all that. And shark mindset is to have a shark mindset is a shark only goes forward from the second it's born. It's never going. If it goes backwards, if it stops or goes backwards, it dies. So we need to always be moving forward, but maybe it's just a little bit at a time. It's those small steps like Atomic Habits talks about and teaches.
Mm-hmm.
And so it absolutely can build a foundation within an organization or within a business that is rock solid. That
Mm-hmm.
now, when adversity happens, when a client's unhappy, when team members are struggling with stress at home, they come in and they still respond better. They still handle it better because they're taught
Mm-hmm.
how to manage the controllables and how to not be able, they can't control everything, right? All the things they can't control. And we have all these dynamics of vendors and clients and bosses and employees, and every single person is valuable and crucial and essential in every business. It's like I've asked this question: who's the second most important person in a surgery room? The janitor. Doesn't matter how good the surgeon is. If that room ain't clean, you're dying.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Surgeon can be great, do the best surgery in the world. You get an infection, you could die. And it's like there was a story back, I think it was Kennedy, back when he walked through NASA and he got to talk to a janitor and asked him, hey, what do you do? And he's like, I help put people on the moon. And it was legit. And he's like, no, I am playing a part of the NASA brand, of the culture of helping people put people on the moon because I'm doing my part. I'm being
Yeah, it's
the best
cool.
I can be at what I'm doing right now. And that to
Mm-hmm.
me is a great basic definition of success. It's being the best you can be with what you have right now. That's all we
Right.
that's all we
Yeah,
got.
I mean, I think about it too as, the parent role, the mom role, and I'm sure we've all heard this, right? Like we can't take care of our kids. We can't give them the love, the attention, everything that they need if we're not taking care of ourselves. If we didn't sleep last night, then we're not going to be able to take care of them, or any of those things. So again, bringing it down to a very, real, example, it's not an organization, it's not a leadership, it's not your church, it's just right here at home,
That's right.
got to take care of yourself. So I love that.
Yeah.
So Chance, we're kind of rounding up our last couple minutes, and I love the last question that you and I talked about together. And I want to make sure that this is kind of our closing before you tell people how they can get hold of you. But if someone listening wants to start to build their mental fitness right now, what is one simple mindset rep they can do right now?
Yeah. The best thing I would say is start a gratitude journal in the morning.
Love it.
Yeah,
Love it.
for sure.
And
I
that kind of rolls into what you said earlier about, starting your day in the first 90,
yeah,
that what a great way to start.
yeah, that's the simplest and best way. And the compound, you may not feel it over 3 days or 13 days, but over 30 you will. And then if you do it over 30 days and you keep doing it and you start putting a little bit of gratitude in your mind every morning, I can tell you it not only sustained my wife and I through our biggest tragedy, it was I couldn't even put into words, but I didn't know it was going to do it. Now we're
Mm-hmm.
people of faith as well, which was a huge part of helping us get through that. But I can't imagine not having faith, and I can't imagine not having a perspective of gratitude, because when adversity happens, typically what happens is we our response to it is we make it worse.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't make sense to make it worse. But our human nature, our typical response is we make it worse. And our battle was just how can, we can't add anything negative to this. Like just
Mm-mm.
at a minimum, we can control that. Like we can't take away how challenging it is, how horrific it is, but we can choose to not add anything negative to it. And then we can choose to be grateful for what we can be grateful for
Yep.
and not be miserable for what we could easily be miserable for. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. I love it. So, Chance, we've got a lot of listeners on today, but again, probably even more that are listening to our podcast. So, drop some lines for our listeners. Where can they find you? Unfortunately, I'm going to go technology. Where can they find you online?
Yeah, so I'm on social, but and I do look at that a little bit. I'm definitely not on there a ton. So for me, it's probably the best is that email thing I said I was trying to get away from years ago.
Hey,
It's chance,
it's a
yeah,
reality.
yeah, chance at onemorebenefit.com would be the best way to reach out to me. Happy to give my cell phone number as well. People can text or call me. I don't answer unknown numbers, so they would need to put a text in there that they heard the podcast and they want to talk. And that number is 417-299-1120. And I put it out there because I've heard Howard Behar, who helped start Starbucks, gives his
Mm-hmm.
email and phone number. There was somebody else, I think it was one of the founders of Apple that does the same thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Almost no one ever reaches out.
Right.
Almost no one. But the few that do, they literally interact with them, which I thought, well, that's
Mm-hmm.
cool. But that would be the best way. If they go to my website, onemorebenefit.com, they can connect with us there as well. But email's probably the best.
Yep, I love it. And it really brings full circle, to how important the relationships are and how important the real life contact is. And you are allowing that to happen. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure.
Um,
Do it as much
so
as I can, as long as I can.
absolutely. So Chance, we just scratched the surface, obviously, of mental toughness, mental training. Clearly you are a wealth of knowledge. So I really appreciate everything you've brought to the surface of this topic today and joining our community. So thank you so much for taking the time out of your day, your week, your month to spend it with us.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I appreciate that very much. And I'm very sensitive about time and that you're bringing that up. Like, that's one thing we don't get back, right? We don't get our time back. So that is something we need to be thinking about, be aware of, be sensitive to. What are we giving our time to? Are we just spending our day or are we investing it? And so this
Yeah.
has been a great investment for me, both in connecting with you, being able to share some great information with you as you've shared as well. And I'm thankful and just want to keep helping people think better.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Chad, and thanks to our Chance, and thank you to our listeners for joining us. We'll circle back next month. Thanks for joining us.
Awesome.